निरञ्जनं नित्यम् अनन्तरूपं भक्तानुकम्पाधृतविग्रहं वै ईशावतारं परमेशमिड्यं तं रामकृष्णं शिरसा नमामः. Welcome to this series of talks on meditation. Last year we had a series of talks on guided meditation for beginners. This year we'll continue those talks on meditation, but especially focused on students, because that's the good age to start training yourself in the control of the mind. It's very useful from the student's academic point of view, but it is at an age where the mind is still malleable, controllable. Later in life, it gets so conditioned and distracted that it is very difficult to control. So it's a good time, good age to start. In this series of talks, we will discuss some aspect of meditation first, and then we'll have a guided meditation session, and I will highlight something about that particular practice. I would like to emphasize that this is a practical session, not a theoretical session. In other words, it will not be of much benefit if you do not practice meditation regularly. Therefore, you are expected in your own way, either in the morning, evening, or both, to give yourself some 10-15 minutes at least to regularly practice and master or gradually improve the skills, and then during the day utilize that skill in managing your everyday life, because it's the same mind that you'll be using throughout the day. Whatever you do, you are using this mind. So let me start with saying what is meditation and why is it so useful and important from a student's perspective. As a student, we don't mean those who go to schools in school uniforms or universities. Actually, we are all students, always learning all the time. So in this context, it could mean you are a student for meditation, you are a beginner in meditation. So you'll be starting with those baby steps, even though you might be 40 years or 50 years of age. So first we are trying to understand what we are, what is the mind, where is it positioned in our whole personality, who controls it, or who will control it, by the way, and what's the objective of this controlling the mind, apart from being successful in life, managing your everyday activities, maintaining some balance and poise, being successful. The same technique, initially when it was mastered by the ancient rishis, was not so much to be very successful in this world. That was their part of it, but the primary purpose was to use this mind as an instrument to find out who we are, because that we are working through that particular instrument. So the ordinary mind that we have is what we call scattered, distracted. Let us look at this, what we are. So the ancient rishis, when they wanted to find the secret of the greatest secret in this universe is man himself, not the beautiful, wonderful planets and stars and solar systems out there. Man himself is the greatest mystery. And how to dive within ourselves and explore that inner space, to go beyond the body, to go beyond the prana level, the vital forces, to go beyond the mind, beyond the intellect, beyond the ego. Who are we ultimately? And in that great quest, many of them, not one of them, many of them came to the same realization and conclusion that man is ultimately really a spiritual being of the nature of pure consciousness. They tried in various ways to explain what this Atman is. And you can understand the difficulty because our human language is designed to talk about our everyday affairs of this world. When they go beyond the mind itself into the very subtle realms, then these languages are found to be insufficient. And so they struggle, and you'll see that they use some stories and parables and analogies, and some new terminologies will come. And ultimately, they find that this reality, that what we are, the pure ultimate consciousness, is inaccessible to the mind also. Even the mind comes out of that again and they say, wow, that was so blissful, that was so beautiful, that was so full of life and consciousness. I felt beyond all boundaries, beyond all limitations, I felt absolutely free. So that is an approximate definition. They say, Akhand Satchid Ananda, absolute existence, knowledge, bliss, absolute purity, beauty, freedom. In different ways, human languages, they're trying to put an infinite in front of them to give us an idea that there is something so profound, so sublime, so beautiful, which is the divine birthright of each and every one of us. So, that's a wonderful idea compared to being told that we are born sinners, and that a very negative idea that makes you feel so small. And on the other hand, you are told that you are the infinite being itself, you are the children of divine, you are the eternal and immortal being. So that itself is a wonderful idea to start with. We will, as we discuss this idea, we will keep on going back to this reorganizing of our thought process, because from childhood we are born to think that we are first a body, then there's a mind, within that some emotions are there, and then deep inside there is some intelligence is there, and an I sense, and beyond that we do not really know. So our primary identity is with this body, and scientists and various people think that sometimes the mind is a product of the brain activity and consciousness is a product of that activity, as if consciousness is a product of matter. The reality is it's the other way. We are essentially primarily consciousness. That consciousness has embodied itself by putting on a subtle body, a causal body, very, very fine. Then it takes another layer, which we call the subtle body. Then eventually it takes a physical gross body. It's not that we are a physical being and trying to become a spiritual being. It's the other way. We always are here and now a spiritual being, but we are trying to disentangle ourselves from this identification with this body-mind complex, so that we can abide in our eternally peaceful, blissful state. So it's not something that will be attained by you in the sense you will receive it, that you don't have now, but it will be a discovery. The Atman nature or the consciousness nature has become covered. We are going to remove these coverings, and as we let go, disconnect from this external world through our senses, from our body, from our mind itself, from our intellect, then we simply abide in that state which is so blissful and peaceful. And that is what the great saints and seers, the incarnations, they experienced that, they discovered that, and they want to have shared that knowledge to us through the scriptures, the Bible, the Quran, the Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishads, the Vedas and all that. So we'll try to have this new perspective of the whole thing. Otherwise, it will be trying to go against the current and in a wrong way, and there's a lot of struggle there. It's not about struggling to climb up somewhere, but something is dragging us down. We let go and we simply bounce back into our own nature. That's much easier than trying to make an effort to climb up into ourselves. So we will keep on trying to explore this idea until in meditation we feel that our primary identity is a consciousness, and somehow it has become entangled in this body-mind complex, and through this practice we will try to disentangle ourselves from that and try to abide in that peace in ourselves. Now, from a student's perspective, why is meditation is going to be so useful to you? Because the mental energies are dissipated and scattered in our everyday activities. A part of the mind is going through the eyes, through the ears, through this nose, through the smell, tongue and through the ears. So five sense organs are fully active when we are awake, and this energy, the mental energy, is filtering out in all directions. That is why our teachers will always say, concentrate, focus, pay attention. That means cut off some of those outside sensations and put that energy on one particular focal point. When we do that, there is an increase in the intensity of the power. So let me explain what does that really mean. For example, on a sunny day, if you go outside, the sun is shining in the sky and the light is falling on the ground. There's some grass, pieces of paper around there. Yes, on a hot day, if something is wet, it will dry up because of the heat of the sun. But imagine that you bring in a hand lens, magnifying glass, and you put it to capture the rays of the sunlight. What that particular piece of glass will do is it will focus that light onto one focal point. And that particular point suddenly has become very intense in its light and heat. It's not that additional heat or light was created for that particular object, it's just that it focused it on one particular point. But the magic of that intense light is that if it's directed on a piece of dry paper or piece of wood, it will catch fire. So, our mental energies are there, but when they're scattered in all directions, they lose their intensity. Not much can be done with that. But when it is focused and concentrated on one particular point, then suddenly it lights up and does some magic. So all people, great scientists, thinkers, explorers who discovered something had this one single capacity of a great or tremendous concentration of mind. It didn't happen just like that. They trained themselves in that art. And so with that concentrated mind, when they applied it to look through a telescope or through a microscope or whatever was the field of study, suddenly, to their surprise and with the help of that particular concentrated mind, nature reveals itself and they say, we discovered something. It's not that they created that knowledge. The knowledge was all the time there, but with the concentrated mind, they removed the darkness of ignorance and things were revealed, and then they try to report and communicate with us and we give them a Nobel Prize or something like that, recognition of their wonderful achievement or contribution to mankind. So that is one particular way we can try to understand that the mental energy, the consciousness is the sun inside us. It shines through us, but as it comes through these layers of the intellect and the mind, and then instead of concentrating it, it gets scattered through various sense organs. What we try to do during the hour of meditation is to shut down various sense organs. That's why we sit in a quiet corner and all that, and practice the art of focusing that mind on one single object. Okay, and as you master that art, then today you might be meditating on divine inside you. Tomorrow, when you're in the classroom and you're trying to study a subject matter in a paragraph, that same mind has been disciplined and trained, but now it's being focused on the object of your study or the subject of your study, and suddenly you find that without much effort, whatever was the knowledge that the writer had tried to give you, you just get it so quickly and clearly. Otherwise, if the mind is scattered, you're reading the same paragraph again and again, and you're not able to receive that knowledge. So the tool that we use from morning to evening in everything is that concentrated mind, or the mind. And some people have a greater degree of concentration, and their life is much more smoother. They don't make mistakes. They get to the knowledge core of things. They make the right decisions. And others whose minds are all over the place, you find they stumble and fumble and make mistakes and go one step forward and 3 steps backward, and all those things happen. So concentration of mind is so important from a student's point of view and anyone's point of view who is working out there. There's another example we can use to say, to illustrate about what this concentration of the mind is. Again, we'll use the idea of the light. You have seen a ordinary flashlight. It contains 1 or 2 cells, batteries. It's got a switch in it, you've got a bulb, and you've got in the front around the bulb is a focusing element, a reflector with a parabolic shape there. Sometimes you can take that parabolic reflector out in the old torches, and suppose you did that, and in a dark room you lit that bulb. So what do we get? We get a small amount of light, maybe within a radius of 1 or 2 meters, some dim light is there. That is what's output from one or two cells or batteries there. What's beyond that circle of light in the corner of the room is invisible, unknown to you, because that area is in darkness. In darkness, things are not revealed to us. So, if we again assemble that focusing element around the bulb, what happens is that the light that was going around in all 360 directions has been stopped and is being reflected to form a beam. Suddenly the intensity of that light in that beam is much more than the light previously around in the whole circle. And that beam is in your control now, and you can point it in any particular direction, and whatever is in that corner gets revealed. So it's not that we added more batteries and cells to produce that. What was done through that science and technology is that the light was now focused on a particular in a particular beam, and that intensity is then able to be used to reveal what is around there. So likewise, the mental energies again are scattered. Meditation is the technique by which we improve the intensity of the mental powers by focusing on one singular object. That's very important, and that should be singular. You should not be pointing here today, tomorrow there, and it's all over the place. You select one object of meditation, and the best object of meditation is not some external object. Yes, sometimes you want to put a picture of God or some statue or some external object, but the best one is man himself. And so in our meditation technique, we will take you through these processes of teaching you how to sit down, how to breathe, how to calm the mind by just praying for the welfare of all, because if everyone is good, they don't come and disturb you in your mental time, in your hours of meditation. And then the real part of meditation is that mental activity where we withdraw the mind from the external world and focus within ourselves, and we will use some imagery in the sense visualization is more powerful than conceptualization. So we'll use that power of visualization of a lotus and light and educate ourselves about that essential nature of our divinity within us. And we'll try to focus this whole mind on ourselves. And as you do that, and the mind becomes calmer, you will feel that inner glow, that inner peace, that inner energy that radiates from the depth of our being. You'll be able to enter, or you should be able to enter that inner space where the outside world cannot intrude. And if we can create that space, then it's a wonderful thing, because as you go through life, life will toss us around just like a little boat in the ocean. But if you can dive deep into the ocean to the bottom, you'll find that it's so nice and quiet and serene and tranquil. And that's the area we are trying to access during meditation. And when you come out of it, you'll be able to maintain a certain degree of balance and poise. Your center of gravity will be within you, and you will find that you will not get so much ruffled and disturbed by what's happening around. That's a great way to live our life. So what we want to do is learn how to manage this mind, to train this mind in the art of concentration, and along with that, various other powers of the mind will also develop, such as your willpower becomes strong, your power of discrimination is becoming better, your decision making, quality of decision making will improve. In so many ways, this mind is called the Kamdhenu, the milch cow that gives you all your desires that you want. But we should have a good friendship with our mind. It should be our friend and not somebody at whose whim and call we suffer if it is not in our control. So, let us say today we will go through our regular meditation session for around 15 minutes, and then we'll talk a little bit about some aspect just to highlight for you to practice. But remember, it's all about practicing. So, let us sit upright, keeping our back, neck and head in a relaxed upright position. You may keep your hands on your knees in this particular mudra. Look at the three fingers are together, your forefinger and the thumbs are together. This is a nice mudra, and you put your hand on your knees, or you can put your right palm on top of the left and you keep it in your left. These are two uh, postures of the positions of how you will put your hand. There's a reason behind it, so that the energy that flows through the body flows through this system where it's circulating from within and not dissipating outside. So much for the posture. So today we'll go through the process, and later on we'll talk about the reason why those steps are there and explain them in a little bit more detail. So let us sit upright, keeping the back, neck and head in a relaxed upright position. Direct your attention to various limbs of the body, starting from the toes to the top of the head. And as you visualize each part, imagine that that particular part of the body becomes filled with a divine light, pure, perfect, soothing, healing, and very healthy. Starting with your toes, feet, ankle, calf, knees, thighs, hips, stomach, back, chest, shoulders, arms, elbows, wrists, hands, neck, face, the head, the whole body. Visualize it to be filled with the divine light, luminous. Every cell of the body is strong and healthy. Every corner of your mind has been illumined with this divine light from within. Next, focus on your breath. Breathe in a rhythmic manner. Breathe deeply, filling your whole lungs as much as possible, and exhaling out as much as possible. Breathe in a slow, deep, rhythmic manner. And as you inhale, visualize that you are breathing in a pure light that enters into your lungs. That energy of that breath fills your whole body and recharges your whole being. To help you in that, you may repeat the sound Om as you breathe in, and as you breathe out, visualize that you are breathing out all stress, tension, negativity, ignorance, etc. In this way, inhale and exhale thrice. Let us pray for the welfare of all beings throughout the universe. We are connected with the whole universe and all beings at different planes, in different ways. But ultimately, we are all from that same source. The whole world is ours, and we belong to the whole world. And so, as we pray for ourselves, let us pray for the welfare of others. Let us pray to that infinite divine consciousness, out of whom this whole universe and all its living beings have come, by whom we all are sustained and nourished, and unto whom all of us will return, who resides in the heart of every human being, every living being, everything, which is of the nature of infinite knowledge, infinite bliss, eternal existence, infinite purity, goodness, beauty, peace, strength, fearlessness, and all all divine qualities. May that divine being reveal himself or herself in our own hearts and in the hearts of all beings and bestow that divine effulgence, beauty, purity within all of us. May all be happy, may all be joyful and peaceful, and may all seek the divine within themselves. Send out your prayers to your right. Visualize that your powerful prayers are going out forever, touching and uplifting all those who come across, your friends, your relatives, the whole of humanity, all living beings, plants, animals, not only on this planet, throughout the universe, wherever they are. Send your thoughts and prayers to your left, in front, behind, above, below, in all directions. Now withdraw your mind from the external world and focus it into the center of your own heart. Visualize that beyond the physical body is a subtle body, the mental body, luminous. And beyond that is even a finer body which is made of intelligence, the causal body. And finer than that, penetrating all three of them, is that ocean of pure consciousness. Calm, serene, luminous, full of consciousness and intelligence and all wonderful things. In that ocean of consciousness, visualize a lotus, fully bloomed, full of freshness and fragrance. In the center of that lotus, visualize a flame, steady like a candlelight kept in a windless place. Visualize that the radiance and the effulgence of that candle, that light, penetrates through all your beings, through the causal body, through the mental body, through the physical body, and nourishes them all with its spiritual nourishment, so to say. Visualize it to be the light of knowledge that dispels the darkness of ignorance. It is the light of purity that fills you with holiness through and through. It's a light of bliss that fills you with joy and happiness. It's a light of supreme peace that fills you with serenity and tranquility. It's a light of strength and fearlessness that makes you strong spiritually, morally, emotionally, intellectually, and physically. You may replace that divine flame with any form or any divine form of your choice, any incarnation, and focus your whole mind on that light within you. To help in that concentration, you may wish to repeat the universal sound Om, which is the name of the divine within us. So as you repeat that mantra Om in a circle, watch that repetition process. And if the mind tends to drift away in any direction, gently bring it back to within you and try to feel the radiance of that light penetrating and suffusing through your whole being, giving you that inner protection, that warmth and joy, and you bask in that, the lap of the divine that is within us. Focus your whole mind in this way, and if it wanders away anywhere, bring it back within. Asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amritam gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. So in this way, we go through this exercise. We call it an exercise because through exercise, when you do something repeatedly, with great patience and perseverance, our internal capacity or inner strength develops. Just like we do physical exercises and slowly the physical muscles develop, likewise, this capacity of the mind to remain focused for a longer period of time without feeling stressed out gradually increases as we practice. We expect you to now seriously, sincerely practice. One weekend listening to a talk for 15-20 minutes is not going to be of much benefit unless you practice regularly in a disciplined way at your home. Secondly, as an exercise that I would like you to do during the week until we meet next week is to re-educate or re-visualize of what we really are in a spiritual way. Okay, so whenever you get some time, sit down and tell yourself, this body that it is there was not there before I was born. It won't be there after some time also. The mind also comes and goes and changes, but there is something behind it which is of the nature of consciousness, which acts through these instruments. I really am that consciousness, and that consciousness is eternal and immortal, it's pure and beautiful, of infinite knowledge and existence. That is my true nature. Remind yourself that of your true identity in the midst of every activity. The world will try to tell you otherwise, that you are sick, you are hungry, you are tired, you are ignorant, you don't know this. So that happens when you become identified too much with our body idea, with our senses, or with our mind, or with our intellect. Whatever, these are coverings. These are not our true nature. So these are the things that we have to give up identifying ourselves with in the process of meditation. At least mentally, conceptually, intellectually, we tell ourselves that we are not this. And how do we do that? This darkness has come in, we bring in the light of that spiritual knowledge of what we really are. So, don't bother too much about the problems around the world and darkness and all that. Assert the divine within us. Every time a negative idea comes, tell yourself, I am that divine being. I am the child of that infinite immortal bliss. The Upanishads say, Amritasya Putra. We are children of immortal bliss. That is our true identity, not this physical identity or this individuality or whatever is in our biodata or CV. So in the midst of your activity, as you go through take some time, pause somewhere and tell yourself, look, all this life has been covered in ignorance. We are stumbling and fumbling and don't know where we are, we have come from, who we are, why we are here, where we are going. That is all this ignorance is there. Let's pull out our head like the ostrich pulls out his head from the sand, and then you see the truth. And the truth is not out there. It is not in some Vaikuntha or some other local place. The truth ultimately is within us. Sri Ramakrishna says, in ignorance, man thinks God is somewhere out there. When knowledge comes, it understands and discovers that God resides in our own heart, in that inner space. And then there's another high state where we understand that that divine is present not only in us, in every being. And that's how we spiritualize our relationship with the whole world, and we love and care and share and all these wonderful sentiments of kindness and compassion and sacrifice comes through that spiritual link, not through that physical link. So we can spiritualize our everyday life, all our relationships with people and all beings, with the plants and elements, the earth and elements, because the divine is the foundation of all of this, and we are one with them through that consciousness. Secondly, we've used this idea of light to meditate on that consciousness, but try to feel it not as a cold, lifeless thing, but as a living being that responds to our prayers, and it's more alive than we are alive. Okay? When Swami Vivekananda went to Sri Ramakrishna and asked him, "Have you seen God?" He said, "Yes, I have seen him, but in a more real sense that I am seeing you." And they're facing each other, you can say. That means he is experiencing that consciousness and that reality which is manifesting as this whole universe. And that reality is more primary, more permanent, is eternal. Other things come and go, bodies come and go, universes will come and go. So he is in touch with that fundamental reality. And we are in meditation trying to establish our link and our connection with that divine energy, that divine being, that divine source. Talk to him. Just like we talk to ourselves, and when we pray, that divine being responds to our prayers. Okay, so try to spiritualize our understanding of who we are, what we are, and establish that connection and relationship with that infinite beauty, purity, and goodness inside us. Whenever a negative idea comes, don't dwell too much about that. Every time we think about negativity, we intensify that darkness even more. But bring in the light, and the darkness automatically will fade away. What is that light? It is this wonderful idea and the realization and knowledge of what we are. And that is so beautiful, so pure. If you can live in that idea, you will find that you will be a few inches above the ground, so to say. It just elevates you. And it's in every one of us. It's not that somebody has to give it to you. It is our own. What we are trying to do is establish that connection so that we can nourish ourselves by drawing more of that energy from within. That is where we are connected. All these great saints and sages, incarnations, Buddha, Christ, Ramakrishna, all those Rama, Krishna, were ordinary people like us looking from outside. But what made them so great was they were anchored and connected to their divine source. And that energy and power then sort of spread out, and it did so much good to the world. That is potentially in all of us. And they say, don't believe in us. Experiment. Realize this truth for ourselves. Religion or spirituality is realizing that truth. Meditation is one of the techniques. And we are starting with some very basic ideas, but keep on working on it and you'll find that the proof of the cake is in eating it. So practice your regular meditations, preferably morning and evening, starting at least for 15 minutes. Try to go at least to half an hour. Then you will feel that energy within. And in the midst of your activities, whatever you're doing, try to maintain that now and then, even a few times in the day, remind yourself, this is what I am really, a spiritual being. And try to not understand it, but to feel it. Okay, understanding is a conceptual thing that happens at the mental level. But the feeling, the bhavana, the deep listening, so to say, deep feeling, that means we are going beyond the mind, just feeling that awareness of that energy and that consciousness functioning through you. That means when you calm down, you will be able to have that awareness. Try to get a taste and a little bit of that radiance and flavor, and we'll meet next Sunday again at the same time, 7 o'clock Brisbane time. Until then, take care, be safe. Om Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.